9/11 is a 2017 film directed by Martin Guigui, starring Charlie Sheen, Gina Gershon, Louise Guzman, Wood Harris, not to be confused with Woody Harrelson, and Whoopi Goldberg. It follows the interactions and experiences of a small group of people trapped in an elevator in the North Tower of the World Trade Center during the terrorist attacks, which is absolutely and categorically what they were, of September 11, 2001. So please join me, if you will, in my learned review of 9/11. Well, let me begin by saying that this is a delightful and nuanced film that tells a small personal story of a group of characters without entertaining the distasteful and unscrupulous conspiracy theories that are often associated with the larger story of 9/11. It's quite literally a breath of fresh air, ironic given they're trapped in an elevator. Especially given some of the so-called documentary films that are perfidiously distributed on the internet these days. I'm compelled to relay that if one could conjure the emotion of the events of that day, one might conclude that it could have caused quite a measure of trauma to the psyche of the masses. It's appalling to think that any group or organization considered it necessary to inflict such tragedy in order to affect the thinking of the masses. But that's not the focus of this film, no, not at all. In fact, the terrorist attacks of 9/11 are but a backdrop to the character study that is front and center of this film. In the elevator, we have the 5 main characters, a group of unlikely and non-typical individuals from varying economic backgrounds and classes. Not only does this film wisely avoid any contradiction of the trustworthy official narrative of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, but it manages to focus on its characters and their unique conflicts and disagreements. This film is, for want of a better term, one of class warfare in an elevator. You have the young, attractive, professional lady who quite wisely agreed to align herself to a wealthy and, one would presume, older gentleman.
It's nice to go out to dinners and buy nice clothes and have a sweet apartment in downtown. But at the end, you don't own any of it. None of it. It owns you. He owns you.
The African-American delivery man who expresses unfounded distaste for Pakistanis and Filipinos.
And I have to see his face. I'm on my bike like 8, 9 hours a day. I see these guys all the time in their cabs. Like, what do you mean? The only one worse than the Pakis be the Filipinos.
Oh my God.
Crazy behind the wheel, Asian, with that Asian vibe.
Well, the Philippines are considered to be part of Asia, so...
Who would have thought a person of color could be so racist, huh? Delightfully original. The Puerto Rican father who still somehow gets to do all the hard work, despite being the least athletic member of the group.
Here we go. One. Wait, move over a little bit. Ready? 1, 2. Okay, come on. Okay, I think I can get this.
I got it.
They really are terribly good workers, though, are they not? The stubborn and ungrateful ex-wife who continues to resist her husband, despite the fact that all he ever did was attempt to provide for her and their young child.
Oh my God, Jeffrey, you hardly spend time with JJ as it is. You were away for business when he was born. You were in Toronto when he took his first steps. Shall I continue?
Don't make me do the weekend dad thing, please.
And then we have Charlie Sheen's character of Jeffrey Cage, a thoroughly likable, self-made entrepreneur who not only has found modest wealth within a single iteration of his family lineage, but is also refined and honorable, and proves to be quite heroic by the end of the narrative. You'll find this quite typical of the upper class, and it's a refreshing sea change to locate a film that stands up for the common billionaire, as we do tend to endure an excessive allocation of public criticism. It would be remiss of me to continue without mentioning the genius casting of Charlie Sheen in the lead role. The once adamant but now thoroughly discredited conspiracy theorist has finally acquiesced to the more reasoned narrative provided by the credible mainstream media. If there was some kind of shadowy conspiracy afoot on 9/11, I'm certain the free press would have seen fit to report it to the public at large. I must admit I do find it utterly delightful that Charlie Sheen has seen fit to eat crow, so to speak, to realize the error of his ways and submit to the realignment of his previously egregious thoughts and paranoid whimsy. But the real power of this film is not the casting or the setting, but the astute observations it makes about the upper class and our propensity towards altruism and heroic deeds. Of course, I'm not one to get emotionally entangled in mere dramatic entertainments, but I must admit the speech made by Jeffrey Cage's wife, pointing out the hard work and dedication required to obtain even a small assembly of financial wealth, may have left one a little choked up, should one have an inclination to such based emotional reactions.
This guy doesn't come from money. His dad worked in a factory. His mom died when he was 12. He went to a public school, and when he barely graduated, he went to work alongside his father and all of his brothers. That's as far as this guy was going to go. But you know what he did? He refused to accept that story. You could be mad at everything that you don't have, or envious of people who have way more than they need, but you have no idea what people go through to get to where they are.
The ending goes on to reinforce this idea and exemplifies how heroic the corporate upper class can be, like Al Gore sacrificing everything for carbon taxes, to fight climate change, mind you, or Bill Gates exterminating poor people from the tragic fate of a polio infestation, of course. With great wealth comes great responsibility, and you can never know that weight until it is thrust upon you. So we are heroes, and what we do is heroic. And if you really understood our unenviable position in society, you would likely refrain from begrudging us any modest profit we might have earned on the side. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have one particularly unenviable chore to accomplish before the evening is concluded. I hope you'll permit me leave until the subsequent installment of Elite Reviews, residing right here on the Popcorn Lobotomy channel. That's quite enough out of you, Harv. You only have yourself to blame for this, you know.